All right.
Hello, mate.
Going well?
Yeah, it's all
Enjoying
going
it?
good. Yeah.
Good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Not a problem. I took some time out of my busy schedule just to come and sit and have a chat. So, but what I've got some questions.
Yeah.
I've thought about this a little bit, and obviously I've been involved in the show from the beginning. But I want you to explain. I just want to ask you when this idea of doing a Billy Joel show started for you. When did it sort of first pop into your mind that that's what I want to do?
Literally, as soon as I fell in love with his music, back in the middle of the 1980s when I was 16 or 17 years, I was at sixth form college when I heard This Night off the Innocent Man album. And it was an instant thing. I fell in love with it so much. All I wanted to do was sing Billy Joel songs all the time, all day, all night. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I went around looking for all the albums. There was people at college who had the albums. I borrowed everything, put everything onto cassettes. I mean, I just devoured it for not months but years. And of course, at the time, Billy was the only person doing his own stuff. There wasn't like 15 or 20 other people. There wasn't a Billy Joel show that we could go and watch when Billy was not touring. So in my head, I was going, God, I just would love to sing this stuff. Oh, what a great song. Oh, I'd love to sing that. And I was doing corporates with my band, sort of weddings and stuff, and or corporate gigs and stuff. And I would, where your job is to get people up to dance, really, after they've had their dinner or whatever it is. You do 2 or 3 sets. And I would throw into those sets Uptown Girl, Tell Her About It. But every time I was thinking, this is all well and good. I'm another gig, Uptown Girl, Tell Her About It, great. River of Dreams comes along. Oh, I could throw that in. That was a big hit. That was a nice, people can dance to that and sing along. But there was more to it. I wanted to do stuff that you can't dance to. I wanted to do Moving Out. And I wanted to do Good Night Saigon.
So the sort of the storytelling songs rather than the get up and dance songs.
Yeah,
the lyrically.
Yeah,
a bit more.
Because it's just the hits. You can't even do really for the longest time at a corporate gig, can you? Really, no. I like the record, and I just loved all the colour, so much colour in this songbook that from the very beginning I envisaged a situation where I could do all of these songs and not have to worry about keeping people up dancing. So basically a theatre
show,
concert, a theatre show, concert. So I've carried the Billy Joel songbook idea in my head since the middle of the 1980s when I heard This Night for the first time.
Up until now, it's happening now.
Yeah.
And how is it for you? How does it compare to the dream of it that you had in the mid 80s? The reality of it. The reality.
Well, the response we've had from it. You see, what was weird was that I honestly, I was 16, 17, 20-year-old, 22-year-old, 25-year-old. You get on with your life. I'm becoming a professional musician. I'm learning how to be a professional musician, making mistakes here, getting ripped off here, doing nice gigs here, getting a nice phone call here, all that stuff. And, it was just something that was in the back of my mind. Always envisaged doing it. I didn't know in what form it would be. And we tried getting it together. I contacted agents. I went to one particular agent who had the foresight to say, you're 20 years too early. Billy's still doing it. But this is a great idea. And I think it's because an experienced guy like that looked around and went, nobody is doing this. And why has nobody ever approached me about a Billy Joel show? He's right. This is good. But you know what? You're 20 years too early. And so, it's a long story, but, we went through a couple of tries and it really didn't bite with the theatres. Nobody was really that interested in booking it. So then when eventually, the catalyst for me was being asked to front the reunion of Billy Joel's original touring band that happened in 2013.
Yeah.
That was a gig that came out of the blue. Didn't see that one coming. Would you like to come over to America to front this reunion? And having tried a couple of times to get this thing together, that's when I went, do you know what? I've got to do this. I've got to do it. Here I am, mid-40s at the time, whatever it was, thinking, still nobody is out there doing a Billy Joel concert. Yeah. They'd done Moving Out, the Broadway show, which was a dance-based thing. It was a ballet. Mm-hmm. It was a great band playing at the back there, but it wasn't about the band. It was more about the story that Twyla Tharp had put together through Billy Joel's lyrics, and it was a ballet. That wasn't what I want, obviously. I mean, I can dance, but but no, I wanted to.
Can we cut to something there? Some sort of old footage that I've got.
So I had this thing, and I approached Barry Collins Entertainment, and he went, yeah. I mean, I bet in all of his life, this is an experienced booking agent, theatre booking agent. I bet he's never ever been approached. I bet no one's ever been approached to put a Billy Joel show. A Billy Joel show. I didn't answer your question though, did I?
No, it's all right. I was aware. I'll get back on it. Right. So, so it's a theatre show, right?
Yeah.
You had the idea. You wanted to front it, do the songs, and I know this is important to you, and it's for me seems to be the thing that kind of. You always have to explain yourself again. It's like, not again. This isn't a tribute, right? So this isn't. There's no American accent. There's no sound alike. No dark glasses. All of that stuff. How do you get over that? How do you sell that? How did you? Because people instantly want to say it's a tribute to Billy, which it actually is. Well, it's a tribute.
That's what I was going to say.
Sense, right?
Because tribute never meant. Imitation. You look it up in the dictionary. It doesn't say tribute. To imitate somebody. I have no problem with Elvis jumpsuits and sideburns and people being Freddie Mercury with the moustache and the.
But you haven't chosen to do that.
No, because because I don't think I am an impersonator. I don't.
But to sell that, it's one thing doing that in your own right or at gigs or whatever, But to sell that to a theatre and say no, it's not a tribute. Yeah. They're used to getting ABBA and Elvis and. Yeah. David Bowie, Queen, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So making the decision, this is just going to be you. Elio Pace is doing this.
Yeah.
Has that held you back? Has that been a problem? Has it been because I know it's important to you that it's you doing it.
It is. It is important, and thankfully, because of wonderful people like Sir Terry Wogan, who opened incredible doors, who put me on a platform for the nation to know my name, I used my name on the poster because I wanted it. That was my first step to saying, this isn't an imitation. This isn't. I was hoping that because you see a lot of those posters, they're not named. They don't have names on them. No. Like Frank and David and so are the Beatles. Yeah. So I wanted it to be that people who had heard me on radio and seen me do that stuff knew I was that guy. It's that guy, and he's doing Billy Joel. Well, obviously he looks a bit like him, and I can't. Well, sort of. Well, I actually normally look like Elvis Presley, but so I choose to put the weight on and the hair off. But no, I look like him a bit, and so I suppose people seeing that poster are going to go, oh, is he? And it is a tough thing because selling what we were doing was tough because people, first of all, had never seen the words Billy Joel on their local theatre's poster board or in their brochure, so they didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a Billy Joel show here. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Instantly, you will think possibly that this is a tribute.
It's a tribute, yeah.
A tribute in the sense that it's now come to mean.
So it hasn't. You don't feel like it's held you back. You don't feel like. I know you do a lot of radio interviews when you go on tour, but are you always having to explain that?
I am. I'm always having to explain it, and still, although the message is starting to get out now that there is a different type of tribute show. Real tribute, not imitation, but a real homage to somebody. Selling this show was tough, but as I say, I think when people come to see it, obviously what's happened, people come to see it. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
In that first year, when in some theatres we were playing to 35 and 53 people, you know. But those 53 people went and told 4 people. So when we came back, we had 200 people. When we came back again, we were doing 2 nights. We were sold out. So people got to know that this is a different type of, it's, you know, I always say people like Gary Barlow, you know, if Gary Barlow had done it, if Gary Barlow had said, Gary Barlow, or the Barry Manilow songbook starring Gary Barlow, I don't think anybody would think that Gary Barlow
was going to
impersonate Barry Manilow or Neil Diamond or Billy Joel. So it is a tough, it's difficult because I'm in that category where some people know who I am, some people don't. And you see a poster of a guy that looks a bit like Billy Joel and they've never seen anything with his name on a poster. So yeah, it has been quite a hard sell.
So I was there. You got the call, or the email from
Larry
Russell.
Larry Russell.
Right. To go over to America and literally fill Billy Joel's boots.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Because that must have been, I know that kind of kick-started our conversations during that. And I was there. I went over there with you, New York and Philadelphia, watched those gigs. It was incredible. How did that feel, taking on that role, really?
One of the most exciting...
In the heart of it.
One of the most exciting things I've ever done. I've been inspired by lots of things. I've had fantastic experiences, but that was... How do you explain, you know,
try
a British Italian being asked by Larry Russell, who was Billy Joel's very first enlisted musician as a solo artist. When Billy put his first road band together, Larry Russell was the first person to get the gig on bass. He calls me. We're doing a reunion of that original band. We have a wonderful guy called David Clark, who is doing it as well. But we'd like to split the set up, and you know, we've seen stuff of you on YouTube, and would you like to come over? It was just incredible. It was an absolutely incredulous that I would find a path to that thing, to fly over to New York.
Yeah.
A Italian singing Billy Joel songs to American people, to New Yorkers.
In New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the hot seat.
In the hot seat. And at the bitter end, where Larry, along with Rhys Clark and Al Hertzberg, who were the original touring band, and unfortunately Al Hertzberg couldn't do these reunions. They enlisted Don Evans, who was Billy Joel's guitar player on Billy's first album, Cold Spring Harbor. And there I was at the bitter end playing a Yamaha grand piano that's been there since 1971, that Billy had played with them in this club. Yeah, I mean, you know, we could sit here for hours telling you how excited I was. I was probably the most excited I've ever been, really, about playing in America. Is, you know, I mean, American music has played such a massive part of making me who I am. So just going to America to play music that I absolutely adore, I mean, it was a dream gig.
And it's at the time, I remember, it seemed to sort of kickstart that idea of going for this show and writing this show. And
I remember talking to you about
making it happen, because it kind of came out of nowhere, that offer, and it just all sort of happened at once, and it was so incredible. It was so brilliant. Yeah. And it just worked. And I know for me, sitting there watching it and watching you doing that, it really did feel like, hang on a minute, this has to mean something. This can't just be a gig that I walk away from and thanks very much, good night.
I remember seeing you there in the bitter end, seeing you in New York, and you'd come over to see it, to support it. But I know I'd already mentioned the Billy Joel songbook to you, and I was so glad you were there to soak all this up, because I knew what was about to happen was when we got back, I was going to say to you, mate, come on,
Now's
Let's do it. Let's do it. I've wanted to do this for over 30 years, and I know that you're a massive Billy Joel fan as well, and I knew you got it, and you'd been there to experience it with me. So, and we've been mates a long time, and we've written stuff together. You know, we've written songs together, from What a Day to Can Your Grandpa Rock and Roll Like This for Albert Lee.
Good songs.
Yeah, you know, and Can't Get Down and Lazy Days on my debut album, and you as an actor in your own right, and as a writer in your own right, you know.
Keep going.
I could do The Shouting Men. You should watch it. No, but I mean, you know, where do you find a mate who has all that skill and also loves? When I was throwing songs at you, worst comes to worst, yeah, I love that. You know, when I was...
All About Soul. Is that it's one of your favourites, I believe.
It's one of my favourites. I know why he's bringing it. You're
Actually,
bringing it up because it's actually not one of yours.
No, it's terrible. But that's a good point, actually, because that's another little thing that we talk about. But there's, 38 songs or something in the show, and still people come up and go, oh, you didn't do
I know.
Leningrad, you didn't do Sleeping with the Television on.
Yeah.
Or All About Soul. Or,
Yeah.
Why don't you do them? Why? What do you say to people that are upset that you didn't do all of Vienna or all of...
Yeah. We would be there for 10 hours if I tried to please everybody and did them all. What I also remember thinking to myself, I remember us discussing this as a concept, I don't want to do medleys.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a verse and a chorus of A Matter of Trust and then slow the band down and go beautifully into, you know, Street Life
just
Serenade.
For the sake of adding another
just to bring
6 or 7 songs.
Exactly. There was something about the Billy Joel thing that even though, yes, some of the songs we've had to cut down and reduce, but we've still got the essence of the song over, I believe. What I didn't want to do was put medleys together. I've got nothing against medleys. You know, a good medley is a great medley, you know. But it was not the vehicle that I wanted to put this show across.
It would be easy to do that as well, wouldn't it? Just do a 10-song medley just for the sake of...
Yeah, all ballads. Here are some of my favourite ballads of Billy Joel as a medley.
It's hard as well because you've got... His songs are not just songs that you put on in the background and they're on. The lyrics that are in them and the meanings and the stories connect with people. And there's so many of these songs connect with people for different reasons. Yeah. And that seems to be the thing that carries along with people is that they want to hear a particular song because they've got an attachment or an association to it. Yeah. So it's part of them, part of their...
And you remember...
And so many of them are like that.
When we were going through those 12 albums and thinking about the songs and which one would go where and which one do we cut, you know, where there are some songs, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, where do you cut that and lose you lose even We Didn't Start the Fire, which is a chronological, you know,
leave out a decade.
Let's leave out a decade. Exactly.
It's not a bad idea, actually. You could get Leningrad in, weave that in there.
Could do. Segue out of that into Leningrad back in again. But and I know to most people they wouldn't care if we did leave out 1962 to 1969.
Someone would.
Yeah, I would. No, but I would. And I remember us going, what would we want to sit back? I think that's the crucial thing about, you know, and Billy was the guy that I remember hearing saying it for the first time, is write to please yourself. Create to please yourself first. If other people end up loving it, then
it's a bonus.
It's an incredible bonus. And that's exactly what we tried to do. That we went through all of those songs and went, well, okay, you know what? We can take a verse out here of Moving Out. We've still got Sergeant O'Leary and Mama Leone story, and we can, you know, and there are ways you can cut. And of course, I did that because I wanted to cram in more Billy Joel songs without using the medley vehicle.
And you're also doing songs that he never does live, hasn't done live. You'd never ever
or done them once.
Yeah, done them once somewhere that you know. So you really are putting on a concert that people will never get to see him do. You know, at some point, if you had some private home movies or whatever of him doing songs, but you wouldn't actually ever see him live doing the songs that you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're actually keeping it alive in the real sense, his music and those some of
I'd
those
like to
songs.
think
You
so.
know?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, we wanted, of course, it's what I wanted to do with the show was to draw people into hearing how incredible this man was as a singer-songwriter. I say was only because he obviously doesn't want to write any more pop music. 24 years has gone by or something. Yeah. But I wanted to draw people in, so I didn't want to alienate them and do a show that full of songs just literally to please me. Every song we do, even the ones that you think, surely, you know, because people sort of, you don't like this. You've already admitted you don't like, you know, All About Soul. I actually really love it. There isn't a single song in the show that I don't love, including Uptown Girl or Piano Man, you know, even Captain Jack, which Billy himself says, you know, goes on too long, you know. No, there isn't a single song in this show that I don't absolutely love listening to or singing and performing. But I also, so every major hit is in the show. I thought of it like a commercial show. I didn't want it to be, you know, a specialist little cult show. I wanted it to be, bring everybody to this, bring your kids to this, bring your grandma, your grandpa to this.
Which is happening. You are getting audiences that are
unbelievable,
young and old.
Yeah,
little kids singing the words.
I know.
And, you know,
who came along the first time because their parents were Billy Joel fans, and they brought their children along, from 7-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and then they come again, and because they loved the spectacle of seeing a live band and
all of that,
and the fun we have on stage, the next time these kids come along, they're singing the words to "We Didn't Start the Fire," and it's amazing. And then I meet these people afterwards, and they say to me, they're doing piano lessons now, or they stopped taking piano lessons, and because they've come to see the show, they've started piano lessons again. We've got the root beer rag up on front of on the piano. I know,
it's all been worth it.
It was. Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's an honour, because, you know, as you know, I say it on stage every single night, but I think he's the greatest. I think Billy Joel's Songbook is the greatest. Taking nothing away from all those other incredible songbooks, but for me,
covers everything.
It does, and it's so clever musically. Once you get your hands on it as a musician, and musicians love his music as well as people who don't make understanding music their business and just love it coming out of the radio. They love it too, but musicians love it too, because you go, that is such a clever chord change. And to be able to condense it down into 3.5 minutes, you know, it's So doing this has been the single most satisfying gig of my life.
So I know that you talk in the show about different parts of Billy Joel's career and different songs and where they came from, but the frustratingly, one of the things that we've sort of condensed is the Just the Way You Are story.
Well, the story I tell, as you know, because we designed it this way, that we'd want to. It's not the life of Billy Joel, but there are some such incredible things to think that this guy very nearly didn't make it. Very nearly didn't make it. And as I say, I love the idea of being the storyteller, telling people who come along to see the show stuff that they may not know, and it lights up the music in a different way. Billy's too modest to sit there and keep telling you how he very nearly didn't make it, or how he nearly got dropped, or how he did make it. He tells this story, but he tells it in his typical, you know, self-effacing. Well, I didn't want to do that, because I think it's important, and I think it's a lesson for those 12-year-olds who are thinking about becoming a musician. You have got to want it, because if you don't, if you're not made for it, it will eat you up. And And Billy had the tenacity to keep on going. And when it came to it, he came up with the goods. And that's tough. You know, he was in an era of singer-songwriters that were, you know, Elton John was a huge star, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, huge stars. And Billy, there he was doing all his incredible, clever stuff, and an amazing piano player and a funny performer, great with the audience. And he just wasn't hitting. He wasn't latching on with the audience. And he was signed to a major label who were pouring money into him. And then Phil Ramone comes along and says, "Here's your hit. There's the hit we've been desperate for. Here it is, Just the Way You Are." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not really sure about that song. I've tried it a few times. It's not that great live." And, you know, he said, "Really, I think we should work on this as an arrangement. We'll change the arrangement. You know, what the drums are doing needs looking at. And, you know, just we changed the arrangement." And they went for it. And they did a session and they created Just the Way You Are, the song just as we know it, for the Stranger album, for the making of the Stranger in 1977. Billy had made 3 albums by this point, none of which had sold that much, and he hadn't had a hit. And these albums had Piano Man on there, New York State of Mind, The Entertainer, Summer Highland Falls, You're My Home, beautiful songs. But he hadn't had a hit. And so they worked on Just the Way You Are in the studio, and Billy still wasn't sure whether it was good enough to make the album, The Stranger. And then the twist of fate comes in. Phoebe Snow and Linda Ronstadt were in the same studio in New York making their albums. In they came one day, meet the boys, meet the band, listen to what we've done for The Stranger. And they heard Phil Ramone played them Just the Way You Are. And they absolutely loved it. And they were like, "You have got to put this on the album. You've got to put it." And Billy, to quote, even though this is slightly politically incorrect these days, but to quote, he said, "Well, if the chicks like it, we'll put it on."
There you go.
And he did. And it earned him his first 2 Grammy Awards. It was covered. Barry White did a version of it. It was a massive hit. People all of a sudden learnt who this fantastic guy was. And from then on, hit after hit after hit. 52nd Street album, My Life, Honesty, Big Shot. Then came Nylon Curtain, Goodnight Saigon, Allentown. Then came Innocent Man. Bang, Uptown Girl. That's it. At one point, when Uptown Girl was out, Billy Joel was probably the biggest star in the world. Yeah. But it was that close. It was that
It's close. Horrible. It's a horrible it's that sliding doors moment for him.
What would have happened?
And again, as what I'm saying, he's not going to sit there and go, "It almost never happened, folks. If it hadn't have been," he's not going to tell that story. But you're right; it does these little insights during the show. It just colours that song in a different way, and you walk away from it and go, "Oh my God!" You hear it with different ears forevermore.
Yes,
and that's really important. I think. I mean, people write biographies about but unless you read it, you don't really.
Yeah.
But this show, you really are getting. And the stuff with the classical music and the all of that, you're just those little insights into him. Yeah, it really does raise everything a little bit more, and the appreciation of him. And I'm sure people go away and I know they do. Personally, I know everyone that I know that's seen the show, they've got his albums, but they go and get the rest of the albums that they didn't have, or they changed their playlist slightly and put the things that they've now heard live that sound incredible. Yeah. That they'd overlooked.
And now, now they go home thinking about Billy Joel, not as that rock star they saw on MTV once, but as a human being. Yeah. A guy who slaved away, who had to work hard. You know, in our business, so many people say things like, "Oh, what a lovely life you have. Oh, how glad." Yeah. It isn't glamorous, folks. It's not. There are some beautiful moments, but it's hard work. Yeah. And we're not all lucky enough to be blessed with the gene that Billy Joel has to write pop song after another. But it is hard work, whether it's touring, whether it's the travelling, whether it's keeping yourself fit and healthy and inspired, and keeping relationships together with the band members you are. It's over years and years and years. It's tough.
Yeah.
And what I feel is important is to help the general public see people like Billy Joel as humans, as people that have to work hard, that can suffer immense highs, yes, suffer immense lows after these incredible highs, you know. And that's what this industry is like. If you're doing it for the right reason, which I believe Billy was, he's one of the people I believe was doing it because he loves music, just really loved music. He's always said he wasn't interested in being a superstar. He didn't want to be on camera. He didn't, you know, he felt comfortable behind a microphone in a studio. That's where he felt he came alive. He didn't want all the trappings of fame. He got it, you know, but
exactly.
you know, he's a human. He's a guy who was.
I suppose he had
musician.
a good audience as well. His audience of New Yorkers that he knew he could tell a story in a song and they would listen.
Yeah.
And that's a nice position for someone to be in, rather than just having to write a pop song that's going to jump out of the radio.
Yeah.
He still had a platform of people to write for in a way that were ready to hear his songs.
Like a folk
Yeah,
writer.
exactly.
He's a folk writer. He writes for folk. And I would say what the majority of it is about his folk, as you say. The people he grew up with, the streets, the towns. I've learned my geography. I've learned through my geography of New York. I've learned through you know, where Sullivan Street is and Mulberry Street is. you know, and
it's true.
Mr. Cacciatore's, you know, it was, you know, it's he's a folk writer, and a folk writer who obviously came from this classical background, fused those, you know, the love of classical music and then his love of rock and roll, which he got because of the Beatles, and his ability to do it, his ability to take the engine apart. He knows what's wrong with this. I can fix this. I can do that. Oh, what's wrong? I know. I've got option A, option B, option B, option C to fix this. That's an amazing position for a pop star to be in. And I think that's what sets him apart, because I don't know another pop star that has that vocabulary, that palette, who can write, perform, sing, play, produce, arrange, and be able to grasp into, look back into, have so much knowledge of music that he can go, I'll make this one. You know, I mean, he was criticised, right? He even said himself that he found versatility to have been a curse in his life. Isn't that a shame that he wasn't allowed to be versatile? He wants to, you know, and then being criticised for being derivative. Well, everyone's derivative in a way, and I think it was I can't remember who it was, but somebody said you know, the good musicians. Oh, I can't get the quote right, but it's something to do with you know, the best musicians steal and make something their own. Beethoven learnt from Mozart. Mozart learnt from Bach, and so it goes. So Billy could write.
Why don't you do that one? Oh, you do a snippet's in.
You know, he could write stuff that sounded like from the 60s. He could write stuff that sounded like Elvis. Then he could write stuff that sounded like James Brown.
And I'm not even sure that people noticed at the time that it was a different genre that he was singing. You know, if you, from one song to the next, you just loved it. It sounded familiar, and you felt it coming out of the radio or whatever. But I don't think people clocked that he was just jumping around genres that had inspired him. Yeah, you know. And again, in the show, you present that, and you understand it more from the audience's perspective. That, oh my God, these songs really are. Yeah, you know, the Frankie Valli bit, or the
classical bit. Or this is the Chopin bit.
Yeah,
and here's Wilson Pickett.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I know, it is incredible, and we absolutely carefully crafted that set list. So we had a lot of criteria, didn't we? We wanted to make sure we didn't alienate people, but we wanted to make sure that the diehard fans came along and got something that they'd never heard live, or, you know, or only seen videos of playing live, or a song they've never heard live. And we also I wanted to show people why I do say that I believe he's the greatest. I wanted to prove it. It's like having your iPod on shuffle, listening to Billy Joel.
Exactly.
And I don't think that is a bad thing. I don't think that being versatile should be criticised. It's a shame that the record industry needs to bag you up. You know, so the story says he wrote the Stranger album because it was such a massive success. The record company said, can you write another album like The Stranger? Just do another one. You know, when Innocent Man was, can you do Innocent Man? Stranger 2, he calls it. He's like, no, I've done it. Well, I'd like to, as a musician, to move on and move on to the next stories I'd like to tell. And these are all the reasons, and many, many more. There are the reasons why I think he's the greatest.
And luckily for you, you've got the chops to be able to cover all those genres yourself.
Wow.
And play all that stuff and sing all that stuff and get it all across in the way that you do. That's packing out theatres.
Well,
so
you've got to be lucky
you're
in
glad
some ways.
I taught you the piano.
I'm glad you taught me the piano. Yeah,
you're welcome.
The Prelude, Angry Young Man.
It's not easy.
You know, if someone said to me, would you like to do a show about Stevie Wonder? I adore Stevie Wonder. But there are people in a much better situation to be able to put that across, if you want to hear it like Stevie Wonder. I suppose, you know, it's the chicken and the egg thing. What, you know, did I become proficient at doing Billy Joel because I fell in love with it so early and it influenced and shaped who I was? Or was I always destined to be looking like this and playing like that and singing like this? I don't know. All I know is that I thank my lucky stars that my ex-girlfriend gave me the wrong tape, you know, by accident. And that I discovered this guy, because this guy, as a writer, as a performer, as a singer, has influenced me more than anybody else. I've learnt so much. It's like a non-stop masterclass after masterclass after masterclass in all the areas of arrangement, writing, producing, singing, performing, attitude, you know.
So, I know the story, obviously, but the tape and Katie and that little twist of fate that set you on this Billy Joel road.
Right.
I'm going to go and make a cup of tea.
Do you know what?
Away.
I can remember almost every single detail like it was yesterday, because it was such an incredible... My first proper girlfriend, the girl I fell in love with for the proper first love, was a girl called Katie Stevens, who has turned into one of Britain's most fantastic actresses. So you should look her up, but she's phenomenal. We went to school together, Toynbee School in Chandlersford in Hampshire. She was my first love. She dumped me, and it was my fault. And but two things happened back to back. One was that at that time, I was 16 or 17 years old, so I'd just left Toynbee and I'd just gone to my sixth form college, Barton Peveril. And two things happened. I got a job offered to me to play at the Potter's Heron, which was a local pub, Fridays and Saturdays, I think it was. I used to borrow somebody's Fender Rhodes piano and some speakers on a stand with a little amp, microphone, put it into the back of a car. My lovely friend Wendy would drive me down in a maxi to the Potter's Heron, and I would do this gig. At the same time, me and Katie's relationship came to an end. So I needed to learn some new songs for this gig. I thought, wow, that's 2 nights, like 3 hours a night, people at the bar drinking, they may be listening, but even still, I need to get some stuff. So I was going through my records and the radio and just, I could do that song and this song. And I remembered about this song, My Life, by this guy, Billy Joel. And to say I knew nothing else about him is not an understatement. All I knew was that it was the same guy that had Uptown Girl out about a year and a half, maybe 2 years earlier, 1983, Uptown Girl was. And it was a huge, huge hit. And at the time, passed me by. I neither liked it or disliked it. It wasn't something that caught me at the time. I don't, it's funny. Why? I don't know. But I ignored it. But I loved My Life. Every time that song came on the radio, I don't even remember hearing The Longest Time. I don't remember hearing Tell Her About It at the time. These were big hits also at the time. I don't remember. Just, I was just, going through changes and just practicing and learning stuff and playing in my own little bands and stuff. Anyway, I wanted My Life to learn for this new gig. And I remembered that Katie's parents had My Life on the greatest hits, 1 and 2, the grey one. And I thought, this is a perfect excuse. An excuse just to go around and go, oh, how you doing? Yeah, nice to see you again. How's it going? Yeah, because it'd been a while, a few months, maybe a year. I can't remember. But, so I went round there on my bike and I rode round there and I did. I splashed on my Brute 33. I remember thinking this is a good opportunity to see if I can woo her back. It didn't go to plan at all because I got there and she wasn't pleased to see me at all. She was in and she was the only one in. She wouldn't let me in. And I said, hi, so I quickly said, can I borrow the cassette? I've come around, what do you want? Literally, what? Oh, no. There's a real reason. I've got this new gig and I'd like to borrow the cassette you have of My Life because I'd like to learn. All right, wait there, And so she went in and came back within a few seconds and put a cassette in my hand and slammed the door, Yeah, see you, bye. I was like, oh, okay. So embarrassed, put it in the bag or in whatever it was and just got on my bike and whizzed round. I was just a few seconds round there and I pulled it out just to have a look and I'm doing no-handed on the bike and I'm looking for My Life and I wasn't thinking, I hadn't noticed what she'd given it, but it wasn't on there because she'd actually given me an Innocent Man album cassette. And of course I recognised Uptown Girl on there and I was just too embarrassed to go back. I wasn't going to go back. So I took it home and I thought, it's a nice cassette. I'll go and have a listen to it, New music, put it on. I had a Walkman in those days. It was, they were big, weren't they? Headphones on. And I pressed play, later on that night. It was that day, I remember, because I was quite excited about hearing, this guy. And now I had a cassette, of this guy who'd sung My Life. I wonder what else he's done, I pressed play and Easy Money comes on. Thought, this is just, whoa. God, it's just rocking. It was just rocking. And this voice that didn't sound like the guy on My Life is singing. And I'm like, wow, is this Billy Joel? Wow. God, it's good. And the next song, second song is An Innocent Man. That, it was sort of close. It was close to the Elvis stuff that I was loving. It was that Latin groove, being an Italian with that Latin stuff. I loved it. And this is beautiful voice and his... It was just... I thought, this is amazing. I'm loving this. Then the a cappella, The Longest Time, comes on. Again, old school 50s doo-wop, which I was loving. I was into the Ink Spots and the Mills Brothers, Jordanaires had sung with Elvis. Couldn't believe it. Loved it. And then track number 4, This Night, comes on. Didn't I say? This young voice, this lovely, light, lovely voice, and this lovely, very familiar old school rock and roll 12/8 groove goes on, and he sings, and I'm loving it, and then it hits the chorus, and it opens up into this glorious, romantic... Now, you've got to imagine, right? Now, I didn't have an older brother or an older sister, so there was no older brother passing down David Bowie to me. There was no older brother passing down Jackson Browne, all the Doobie Brothers. I was the oldest of my family, you know, my two younger sisters. And so therefore the music that was passed down to me was my mum and dad. And mum and dad loved the Beatles and they loved Queen and stuff, but being Italian, Southern Italians, there was a lot of that music in the house. Perry Como was there, Engelbert Humperdinck, Tom Jones. I was brought up with that sort of, you know, radio was always on, so I had the modern hits, but there was all that stuff. So I was into this lush, beautiful arranging that all those great Andy Williams artists, you know, it's all cool now. But, you know, back then it wasn't really cool for a 14-year-old to be into Andy Williams. You know, it wasn't even cool to be into ABBA at that time, and I loved ABBA. So I was brought. I had an ear for this lush harmony and lush arrangements, and there it was, in this rock and roll star who'd been on MTV, was on Top of the Pops. What's this guy doing, covering all that old stuff? And it was modern production. I absolutely couldn't believe how wonderful it was. And then the moment for me was, it's building, second chorus, then it goes off into this saxophone solo and these beautiful harmonies, backing vocals, this tenor saxophone, which I'd loved, obviously, you know, because of my love of Elvis Presley's Boots Randolph on that. And then it changed key and he comes in, and I remember it like it was 25 minutes ago. This night is my world, it's only you and I. He's singing up there now because the song's changed. Tomorrow is such a long time away. That little twiddle, that little romantic little sort of classical Italian Neapolitan singer that I'd been brought up with. There it was, and he placed that note, which of course is a Beethoven melody. Even in that itself, it's European. There was this American basically taking a European melody, and, you know, being an Italian, it's all tied in. That is an already romantic melody, and this rock and roll star is singing it to me with all this stuff going on around it, and the rock and roll. I remember it hitting me so hard. And the strings straight after, long time away, till you both, this night can last forever. Bang! Fireworks went off inside of me, and literally I don't think they've ever stopped. Nothing, not Elvis, not anything else has ever touched me musically as hard. It was just the right time. You know, it was just the right thing at the right time. I had that moment and I was set. Right at that moment, I became instantly a new young man. And there was only one way I could go from that, and that was to find out who this guy was, get everything he'd ever done. And when I did get it and found there were ridiculously beautiful songs from other stuff, you know, other things that made me go, oh, he's done it again. He's done it again and again and again. Where did that melody come from? How did he get from that chord? And then, of course, it opened up. And he was so far in advance of me and my harmonic knowledge. It was literally, as I say, a masterclass after masterclass. Every 3.5 minutes was just a masterclass. And that's how I became really who I've become as myself, as a singer, as an artist, as a writer, as a performer. I really have ultimately no one else to thank but Billy Joel.
And that little twist of fate that day.
And that little twist of fate. So thank you, Katie.
Katie, can you...
I don't even know if I still have the cassette. But I can tell the story. You can keep it if you want or not. But Katie came to see the show, and I tell the story in the show.
Yeah.
We did a show at Leicester Square, and she was there, and it was quite weird telling the story with Katie there, because I said, right, this is the girl I'm talking about, you know. And as I say, she's an incredible artist, fantastic actress. But her mum and dad came to see the show, and I told the story. I'm telling the story, told the story, and beautifully timed, because her dad had a great sense of humour anyway. Just as I finished the story about it, and I'm just about to go into this night, he shouts from the back, "Can I have my cassette back?" From the back. Which is very funny. But yeah, there's the story.
So 4 years down the line, still going strong, still selling out. For you, I mean,
thankfully,
like you said, initially there was smaller audiences, and it's built and built and built.
Yeah.
But the reactions that the show gets, people coming to see you afterwards, coming back to see the show again and again and again
and again and again. And again.
How's that evolved? How's that sort of just the general reaction of people to the show?
I remember saying to you, there's a gap in the market here. I reckon there are a whole load of people out there that have forgotten how much they love Billy Joel's music. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to put a show on like this and find those people.
Yeah.
And I was right. We were right. There are people out there who have not had enough of Billy Joel, who've forgotten. A number of people that have said to me after a show, "I didn't know that was by Billy Joel. I didn't know New York State of Mind. I didn't know that was Billy Joel. She was always a woman. I didn't know that was Billy Joel." I was like, for me, I'm like, seriously? But they didn't. Because, as I say, it's not their job to know the stuff that we know. They do their stuff, I do my stuff. So to have found people and to see the reaction that we get. I'm not one. I hate sitting in an audience when the performer says, "I want to see everybody up on their feet. I want to see all the hands up in the air." It makes me feel uncomfortable. So I never say that on stage. I like it if they did stand up, but I never want to say that. So to have whatever, we've had a standing ovation, what I believe is a real standing ovation, every single show from the day we started on March the 20th, 2014. That was the first show, East Grinstead, Chequer Mead Theatre. Standing ovation in front of those 72 people that night. And yes, we are now starting to sell out nearly everywhere we go. We're starting to do 2 nights. There are some theatres that want us for 3 nights. I can't sing the show more than 3 nights in a row at the quality that I want to.
Yeah.
So I can't physically do the show more than 3 nights. It's a 2.5 hour show. There's all those songs in it. And thanks, Billy, but it's not a straightforward, it's not.
Well, he had 30 or 40 years to sing those songs. You've got 2.5 hours.
But, the way he writes, it's up and down. It's not just straight, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, cracking all the time, which is basically 3 notes, No, these move like symphonies, these melodies, and you have to sing them in a certain way to make them work. So you have to be on it. And so to start doing 2 and 3 shows in places and to have these incredible, wonderful, music-loving people. I've always believed that if you were a Billy Joel fan, if your ear had been turned by Billy Joel, you had a knowledge. You were in a little club with me. There's a club, and I know I'm in it, but I knew there were other people that got Billy Joel. When I confidently declare I believe he's the greatest, it gets a round of applause because there are some people who agree with me. Of course, there are some people that go, "I don't know what he's talking about. I prefer Elton John." But that's okay, because my job is to sort of put it on a plate for you and go, have a listen to this and see what you think now. He's pretty good, isn't he? This is pretty clever stuff, isn't it? And it's catchy. It's not alienating, it's not heavy jazz or heavy fusion. It's still pop music. So to have found those club members and to be in a position to spread what I believe, and there's a little bit of a soapbox thing about it for me, because I do believe that colour, that variety in pop music has disappeared. It's gone. It's been dissipating for years, and And, you know, if I know there's a lovely movement against it where people encourage young kids to pick up a guitar or play the drums or play the piano. It's great. We need that. And this is, you know, I wanted to, you know, sing Billy Joel songs, but also there is a bit of a underlying message for me, which is, let's not let this beautiful music die, and let that 12-year-old kid down there who's listening, who's singing along to Uptown Girl, who wasn't the last time he was here a year ago. If he turns into a musician, then his ears have been turned into this beautiful... You can progress through the chords and through the sounds of music and still make it into the pop idiom. That's partly of what I'm trying to get across as well. So to have people dancing is a thrill. To have people singing is a thrill. To have people coming back over and over. We've got people coming back now who have seen the show into the, you know, into the 30s and 40 times, 50 times. People were taking the show internationally for the first time this year. There's busloads of people going over to Holland for the first time. There are other areas of Europe that have come knocking that would like the show. Why? Well, I'd love it if Billy wanted to do it himself. I would love it. I'd be the first one in line. I was there at Wembley when he played there, you know, last year. I love it. I wish he wanted to do more, but he doesn't. And because I believe in music and the variety of music and this beautiful music, of which Billy is definitely, you know, an advocate for, I have taken it upon myself, because I passionately believe in it, and that it shouldn't die, and that young people should hear great old songs, as well as the new stuff. There's some great new stuff as well. Combine it together. Let's not be afraid of playing a few more chords. Let's shove in a minor 7 flat 5 in there. It's okay. Learn it. It's great. It's a lovely chord on the guitar. Learn it. You know, learn that major 7, major 9 chord, that 13 chord against your straight major chords. Beautiful. Let's mix it up a bit. That's what I'm trying. And to be given the opportunity to do this. If Billy doesn't want to do it, I really feel somebody has to do it. So I feel it's been my calling all these years. All these years, I wanted just to do a show, but now it's become something more, you know, for me, because I really, you know, and in it, it's a massive, massive thrill to see these people who get it, who have remembered how much they loved. Honestly, the amount of times people have said to me, "I've got his vinyl. I didn't really want to come tonight. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I didn't know what to expect. I'm going to get straight up in the loft. I've got Turnstiles up there, and I've got Street Life Serenade on vinyl." I was like, "Oh man, he's going to go and get it." And I get emails and I get messages from people saying, "Yeah, I can't stop listening to this song," and you know, and stuff. So
he's probably seeing his sales going up in the UK. He's like, "What's going on over there? There's this."
Well, he must be. He must be seeing a
some
spike
sort of...
in his downloads.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, there must be, you know, and you know, even if it's a little bit, it must be there.
That's it. And so, okay, well then, with that in mind, then, which people are obviously didn't remember that they were Billy Joel songs, forgotten the songs, sort of like those songs. Which one of those songs do you feel up there performing them? Which ones are getting the reactions or getting the? Oh, that one you did with the, you know, that.
There's one song. It's the Lullaby. Good Night, My Angel. It's my favourite ever song by anybody. It's my favourite song, and I loved it when it came out. I loved it in 1993. It was on the River of Dreams album. I loved it a lot. Then I became a father 8 years ago, and I listened to that song again, and it took on a whole new meaning, the lyric.
Yeah.
And however difficult that song is to sing, and I do find it difficult to sing, I have to do it.
Emotionally,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, emotionally, because I can't, you know, I have to try not to picture Marcella's face too much. He's, you know, because Billy wrote it about his little girl. So I really feel in that song, and it's that song I think the most that has touched people
Yeah.
For me, it's the one that people who definitely didn't come as Billy Joel fans, who go, wow, you know, that was a song. I've got to tell you, you know, that was a song, and it's the amount of people that talk to me about that particular song and how they'd never heard it, or they had heard it but not really heard it, and they've gone home and listened to it. And then I've had people that have written to me that have said we use that for this occasion and sad occasions and you know, and happy occasions. And it seems that Billy wrote an extraordinarily awesome song there, which from my perspective, is the one song that I do in the show that people didn't know. People didn't know was Billy Joel, and have touched more people, I think, than any other song I perform.
And it comes at a really lovely point in the show as well. It's perfectly placed in there.
Even if we say so ourselves.
Well, if you wasn't going to mention it, I was. But it just, you know, you've heard all of this music, and it's almost at the point where okay, I get it. I get it. Brilliant.
He's great.
I get it. And then, hang on a minute. Bang.
There's one more thing you need to know.
Yeah,
before we take the cork out of the bottle and rattle through the hits. We didn't start the fire, The River of Dreams, Uptown Girl, Tell Her About It, Piano Man, You May Be Right. There's one last little chapter I want to read to you.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't do it, now you've got the whole picture, then I've done my best.
And even that, I mean, you know, you can easily just sit there and sing all the songs, put all the songs together and do a concert. But even from our point of view, putting that together in that way, finding which songs work where do we put that, where do we put that, even that, creating the show, it was a perfect song in a way. It just delivers a real sort of theatrical punch, literally.
Yes.
That kind of helped shape that second half. It was like like you say, before the cork comes out of the bottle, it's like we need one last little twist of a sort of plot, if you like.
Exactly.
And it's
a story.
Exactly.
Every song we chose was chosen to help tell the full
picture,
full
story
of who this guy is. So if you want a bite-size experience of who Billy Joel is, Billy Joel is allowed to go out and do a few hits and a load of albums, a load of album tracks, right? He can do what he likes. It's his music. I'm going to love that. But if you want a 2.5 hour lesson,
which it is,
as to who this guy is and how brilliant this guy is, I'm very, very proud of what we wrote and how we shaped that show, and your idea to open the second half with Goodnight Saigon. I mean, who would, you know, that's a down song.
Well, no, it is, but
heavy.
Again, it going back
theatrically,
to
that's your theatric, that's your
and
acting,
and the storytelling side of it. You the helicopter on the album starts that off. You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you were washing up in the kitchen and you had the album on, that it pulls your ears in. So again, it's a perfect time to do it. Everyone's just come back from the bar, lights go down, up comes the helicopter. And it's not, you know, you could have put 5 or 6 different songs there to open the show, but even that, it was put on a plate for us. You know, all those years ago that it was written, we'd have no idea that, perfect, we'll open the second half with a helicopter. Yeah,
having finished.
Brilliant.
And although on the DVD that people see here, it all melds into one, I think it's very clear to see that was the end of one act and the beginning of the next. So scenes from Italian Restaurant into Goodnight Saigon work great.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.